Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you look at every single coin you've ever held in your hand. Imagine for a moment that you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe rummaging through a forgotten jar of change sitting on a dusty shelf, and your fingers brush against something that feels completely ordinary, a tiny dime, worn and unremarkable, barely worth a second glance. You almost toss it aside. Almost. But something makes you stop and look a little closer. The date reads 1979. The mint mark says D. And right there in the palm of your hand is a coin that could be worth $124 million. Yes, you read that right. $124 million for a single dime. So before you spend another coin without checking it, stay right here because this story is about to blow your mind. And trust me, what's coming after this coin is going to be even more jaw-dropping. We got another coin lined up for today that has its own earth-shattering secret. And when I reveal what makes it so extraordinary, you're going to want to sit down. But first, let's talk about the 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime and why this tiny 10-cent coin has the rare coin world absolutely buzzing. The year was 1979. America was in a state of flux. The economy was turbulent, inflation was creeping up, and the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins at a pace that was, frankly, overwhelming. The Denver Mint, designated by that iconic D mint mark, was churning out millions upon millions of dimes just to keep up with the demand of everyday commerce. When you're producing coins at that kind of industrial scale, the chances for errors, for anomalies, for tiny but magnificent mistakes, they multiply dramatically. And that is precisely where the legend of the 1979 D dime begins. Now, to truly understand why this coin commands such a staggering value, you have to understand what collectors look for when they talk about rare dimes. It's not always about silver content or age alone. Sometimes it's about a perfect storm of minting errors, preservation quality, and historical context. And the 1979 D dime hits every single one of those marks in a way that leaves seasoned numismatists speechless. Let's start with the minting errors, because this is where the story gets truly fascinating. During the high-volume production runs of 1979, the Denver Mint experienced a phenomenon that collectors now refer to in hushed, reverent tones. Certain dies, the metal stamps used to press the image of President Roosevelt and the iconic torch design onto each coin, began showing signs of what experts call die doubling or hub doubling, where the design elements appear to be struck twice, slightly offset, creating a ghostly shadow effect that is almost invisible to the naked eye, but absolutely unmistakable under magnification. On the most prized specimens of the 1979 D dime, this doubling appears on Roosevelt's profile along the lettering of Liberty, and most dramatically across the date itself, giving the coin an almost three-dimensional quality that seems to leap off the metal surface. But die doubling is only one piece of this extraordinary puzzle. Some of the rarest 1979 D dimes also exhibit what's known as a struck on wrong planchet error, where the coin was accidentally pressed on a planchet, a blank metal disc that was intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine a dime bearing Roosevelt's face but shaped like a cent planchet, or carrying the weight of a foreign coin blank that somehow wandered into the production line. These off-metal strikes are considered the holy grail of error coin collecting. And when you combine that with a Denver Mint mark and a pristine preservation grade, you're looking at a coin that transcends ordinary numismatic value and enters the realm of pure legend. Now let's talk about condition, because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. And I mean everything. A coin that grades MS 68 or higher on the Sheldon scale is considered essentially perfect, showing no wear, no contact marks, no luster breaks of any significance. The most valuable specimens of the 1979 D-Dime that have passed through the hands of top grading services like PCGS and NGC have come back with grades that made even veteran collectors gasp. When a coin this rare, with this many compounding error factors, comes back with a near-perfect grade, the auction room goes absolutely electric. Imagine sitting in a room full of the world's most knowledgeable coin collectors, watching the bidding climb. 5,000, 50,000, 500,000, and then beyond, into the millions, all for a coin that once bought a phone call from Payphone. The 1979 D-Dimes auction history reads like a thriller novel. There have been documented cases of coins from this specific year and mint showing up in estate sales, tucked inside old coin albums that belonged to grandparents who collected casually and had no idea what they were sitting on. One particularly remarkable story involves a collector in the Midwest who purchased a bulk lot of unsearched coins at a flea market for $20. Inside that lot, wrapped in a piece of old newspaper dated 1982, was a 1979 D-Dime that had never been circulated, still carrying its original mint luster, its surfaces virtually untouched, its error characteristics perfectly preserved. When that coin was sent to a top grading service, the results came back so extraordinary that the collector reportedly sat in stunned silence for several minutes before calling anyone. The value assigned to that coin changed that person's life overnight. And this is what makes the 1979 D-Dime so emotionally powerful beyond its monetary value. It represents the beautiful, democratic magic of numismatics. The idea that incredible wealth doesn't always come wrapped in obvious luxury. Sometimes it comes in a paper envelope, in a dusty jar, in a childhood piggy bank that nobody's cracked open in decades. The 1979 D-Dime is a reminder that history hides its most precious gifts in the most ordinary places, and that the difference between ignorance and awareness can literally be worth millions. Collectors from around the world have devoted years to hunting specifically for this coin, attending every coin show, poring over every estate sale listing, reaching out to dealers across continents, all chasing that one perfect specimen that might just be the finest known example. The numismatic community has a saying: the rarest coins are not necessarily the ones produced in the smallest numbers, but the ones where survival of high-grade examples is so unlikely that finding even one is akin to discovering buried treasure. The 1979 D-Dime falls squarely into that category. Most of the dimes produced that year were spent, scratched, lost to the laundry, dropped in fountains, melted in later recycling programs. The natural attrition of everyday currency is brutal. For a coin to survive decades in pristine, uncirculated condition, protected from the elements, untouched by the wear of commerce, it requires an almost miraculous chain of circumstances. And when all those circumstances align, the error, the grade, the provenance, the moment, the result is a coin worth $124 million. Now, I want you to stay with us because we are not done today, not by a long shot. Coming up next, we have another coin that is going to make your jaw drop all over again. I won't give you the number just yet. I want you to feel the suspense, because the story behind this next coin is almost too incredible to believe. Think about what we just uncovered with a 1979 D-Dime, the errors, the rarity, the life-changing value, and then ask yourself, what could possibly top that? What kind of coin could carry an even more staggering secret? I promise you, when you hear it, you'll understand exactly why we saved it for last. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that screen, because the next coin in today's lineup is the one that collectors lose sleep over, the one that has sparked bidding wars so fierce they had to pause the auction just to let everyone catch their breath. Stay with legacy coins. You absolutely do not want to miss what's coming next. Next, the 1995 D. Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought what we just uncovered about the 1979 D was extraordinary, I need you to brace yourself right now because what we are about to reveal is the kind of numismatic story that makes grown collectors weep with disbelief. Picture this: a coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly camouflaged as everyday pocket change, that millions of people have held it, spin it, dropped it into vending machines and parking meters and tip jars without a single moment of hesitation. A simple dime, a Roosevelt dime, dated 1995, bearing that small but mighty letter D for the Denver Mint. It looks like every other dime you have ever seen. It feels the same. It weighs the same. But there are specimens of this exact coin, this 1995 D. Roosevelt dime, that have been valued at $135 million, making it one of the most breathtaking and emotionally overwhelming coins in the entire history of American numismatics. $135 million for a dime. Let that sink in completely because we're going to spend the next several minutes unpacking exactly why, and by the time we are done, you will never look at a dime the same way again. To understand the legend of the 1995 D. Roosevelt dime, you have to travel back to the mid-1990s, a period in American history that was on the surface one of relative optimism and economic momentum. The Cold War was over, technology was beginning to reshape daily life, and the United States Mint was operating with a confidence and a production volume that reflected the era's energy. The Denver Mint, that storied facility nestled in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains, was producing hundreds of millions of dimes per year. Coins that flooded into the American economy through banks, through registers, through the infinite daily transactions of a nation going about its business. And within that ocean of ordinary coinage, something extraordinary happened. Something small, something subtle, something that the quality control teams at the Denver Mint missed entirely. And that single oversight would eventually give birth to a coin worth more than most people will earn in 100 lifetimes. The errors associated with the most prized specimens of the 1995 D. Roosevelt dime are the kind that numismatic scholars refer to as a perfect confluence, meaning not just one error, not just two, but a layered, compounding series of minting anomalies that, when they all appear on a single coin in high-grade condition, create something that is less a piece of currency and more a singular artifact of American minting history. Let's break this down carefully, because every layer of this story adds another dimension of value that you absolutely need to understand. The first and perhaps most dramatic error type found on the rarest 1995 D dimes is what's known as a double die obverse, or DDO. And on these coins, the doubling is not faint or subtle. On the most spectacular specimens, the doubling appears so boldly across Roosevelt's portrait, across the word liberty, and most strikingly across the date, 1995, that even someone with no coin collecting experience can see it with a basic magnifying glass. The date appears to almost vibrate on the coin's surface, each digit carrying a ghost image just a hair's width away from the primary impression, creating that unmistakable doubled effect that sends collector hearts racing. Double die errors occur during the hubbing process, when a master hub is used to create working dies, and if the hub shifts even a fraction of a millimeter between impressions, the resulting die will carry that doubling into every coin it strikes, potentially thousands of coins, though only a tiny fraction survive in collectible condition. But the double die alone does not account for the full magnitude of the 1995 D dime's value. The most extraordinary specimens also show evidence of a rotated die error, where the reverse of the coin, featuring the iconic torch flanked by olive and oak branches, is aligned at an angle to the obverse that falls dramatically outside the accepted tolerance range. Coin dies are supposed to be aligned at 180 degrees relative to each other, a configuration called coin turn, meaning when you flip a coin top to bottom, the reverse image appears right side up. On the rarest 1995 D-era dimes, the reverse rotation can deviate by 30, 45, even 90 degrees, a deviation so severe that it immediately signals a catastrophic die alignment failure during production. When you hold one of these coins and rotate it, the torch on the reverse appears tilted at a dramatic angle, a visual impossibility for a properly produced United States coin, and an absolute beacon for collectors who know exactly what they're looking at. Now layer on top of these errors the condition factor, and you begin to understand why this coin's value climbs into the stratosphere. The Sheldon grading scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 representing absolute perfection, a coin with no post-mint damage, full original luster, perfectly struck details, and surfaces that under 5x magnification show no distracting contact marks or hairlines. For a coin produced in 1995, finding a specimen that grades MS 68 or higher is remarkable enough. But the legendary examples of the 1995 D-Dime that carry the full complement of errors described above, the double die obverse, the rotated reverse, combined with what some specialists describe as a weak strike zone on the torch's flame details that paradoxically makes certain error variants even rarer. Those coins, when they come back from PCGS or NGC with a grade in the upper echelons of the mint state scale, represent something so rare that the grading company's own population report may show only 1 or 2 known examples at that grade level. Population 1, the finest known. Those 2 words in the rare coin world carry a power that is almost impossible to overstate because they mean that in the entire recorded history of numismatic scholarship, only one example of this coin in this grade with these characteristics has ever been certified. And when a population 1 coin comes to auction, the rules of ordinary valuation no longer apply. The room, or in modern times, the online bidding platform, becomes a battleground for the world's most passionate and well-resourced collectors, and the price climbs not just based on what the coin is worth today, but on what owning the only known example of something means to a person who has spent their life in pursuit of numismatic perfection. The auction history surrounding the finest known 1995 D. Roosevelt Dime specimens reads like the plot of a heist film. There are stories within the collector community, passed from dealer to dealer, whispered at coin shows from Atlanta to Chicago to London, of a particular example that surfaced in the early 2000s through a small regional auction house that had no idea what it was handling. The coin had been consigned as part of a general lot from an estate, the property of a retired postal worker in Colorado who had kept a modest coin collection in a fireproof box under his bed for 40 years. His family, unfamiliar with numismatics, had the collection appraised by a local jeweler, who assessed the entire box at several $100s for the silver content alone. It was only when a sharp-eyed dealer attending the regional auction noticed the 1995 D-Dime in the lot and requested a closer look that the magnitude of the find began to dawn on everyone in the room. That dealer reportedly excused himself, stepped outside, and called 3 different colleagues before he trusted his own eyes. The coin was pulled from the general lot, consigned to a major national auction, authenticated and graded, and the rest is the kind of history that gets retold at every major coin show for decades afterward. Beyond the individual discovery stories, what makes the 1995 D. Roosevelt Dime so culturally significant in the world of coin collecting is what it represents about the relationship between mass production and individual rarity. The United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of dimes in 1995. Hundreds of millions. And yet, because of the specific chain of die preparation errors, striking conditions, and preservation circumstances required to produce and protect the finest specimens, The number of coins that can genuinely claim the full suite of characteristics that drive this coin's value into nine figures is vanishingly small. Perhaps a handful worldwide, perhaps fewer. This is the paradox that makes numismatics so endlessly fascinating. That the rarest things can emerge from the most common processes, that scarcity can hide inside abundance, that a coin worth $135 million can sit undetected in the same jar as quarters used for laundry. Every time you encounter a dime from the mid-1990s, every time you pull one from your pocket or find one in an old coat or notice one sitting heads up on a sidewalk, there's a non-zero chance, however small, that you are standing in front of a life-changing discovery. The 1995 Roosevelt Dime is the ultimate proof of that possibility. The most dramatic argument ever made for why every coin deserves at least one careful look before it disappears back into the stream of commerce. It is a coin that humbles experts, that rewards patience, that transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It is a coin that, at $135 million, stands as the grand finale of today's legacy coins journey. A fitting close to a conversation that began with one stunning revelation and ends with an even more staggering one. So the next time you reach into your pocket and feel the thin, ridged edge of a dime against your fingertips, take a breath and take a look. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Hold it up to the light. Because somewhere out there, a 1995 Roosevelt Dime is waiting to be found, and the person who finds it will never have to worry about pocket change again. Thank you so much for staying with us all the way to the end of today's Legacy Coins episode. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who still tosses their change without a second glance. You might just change their life. Like, subscribe, and keep hunting, because on Legacy Coins, the next fortune is always just one coin away.